What kind of markets are dominating your trading at the moment?
I keep it very simple. I like to go with the big markets, the big players. It's easy to monitor the news. So for me, it's the S&P 500, the S&P futures. It's the DAX futures. It's pound against the US dollar, euro against the US dollar, and US dollar yen. So they're my main five.
What's your favourite currency pair?
God, I don't really have a favourite. As I said before, I like the major currency pairs because they're more liquid, and you can structure your trading quite nicely because often the news announcements come out at a very specific time. So for me, at 9:30 in the morning, I'm away from my screens. I'm not actually trying to trade the news. So I like the way they work. They don't tend to spike. So yeah, for me, that I would say that the three majors are probably my favourite.
How much time do you spend analysing and trading on the market?
Good question. That is, I would say, that's opportunity dependent. So if there's a lot happening, I'll spend more time in front of my screens. If there's not, then I'll go away. What I don't try and do is sit in front of my screens if nothing's happening, because I'm teaching new traders as well. That gives me something else to do. So I would say probably it's a baseline of about 15 hours a week. So I usually do an overall analysis on a Sunday. I like sitting in front of my screens when essentially the market's there's not much happening. The Asian session in Monday is coming. I like that time for about an hour and a half to really do an in-depth analysis of where specific levels are. And then it's really mostly mornings and then a review in the evening.
So how would you define yourself? Did you say earlier you're a day trader, you're not a swing trader?
So no, I trade all time frames. So I'm a day trader. I would say probably 60-70% of what I do is day trading. And I will swing trade as well, and I will position trade. But in terms of time and focus, day trading takes more time. You've got to analyse more time frames. You've got more to do. So yeah, I would say primarily I'm a day trader. And when I'm away, so if I'm on holiday, I can still keep an eye on the charts, but it's day trading that I miss when I'm away.
Oh, that's interesting. When you're on holiday, you still miss it.
Yeah, so I still miss it. I've got about a 3-day window when I go away, so I can relax for about 3 days. But if I can't then go and have a look at the charts, I'm left wondering what it is. So I don't trade off my phone, but I will still have a look on my phone at where price levels are.
Is your partner supportive at these moments?
She's great. That's a really interesting question because my previous partner, she was very risk averse. So she would come in and say, "Oh, how's your trading been?" And I would say, "Oh, I'm losing day." And if it ended up being a losing week, then she would start to question the whole scenario. And what I found myself doing was I found myself elaborating the truth, basically lying about how I'd got on, not because of how I felt, but because of how she reacted. Whereas Sarah's great. She doesn't pay any interest. She's got no interest in trading. She has no relationship to it. And I'll say, "Oh, I've had a good day today. Great." And I'll say, "Oh, not so good." "Oh, well." So that actually is quite helpful. So she has no reaction to it. My stepdaughter's a little bit interested in it. She likes silver coins. So I have silver coins and silver bars as part of my investment strategy. So she will pick one up and see. She'll ask me where the price of silver is, and she'll come and have a look at a chart.
Oh, exciting!
So, yeah,
train them young.
Well, maybe.
What's your trading time horizon? Going back to it, what were you? Do you only trade at certain times of the day?
I try and keep it to the morning. So for me, I'm looking for currencies to break out, and if I can get in on that trend. If I see potential opportunity in the afternoon, then I may come back to my screens in the afternoon. But for me, what I found is my focus lasts for about 3 hours. So I would rather try and trade in the morning and at least have something at that point that I will do. So go to the gym or head off somewhere. So it gets me away from the screens. But I'll go back to my screens if I think there could be opportunities. But I don't sit there for hours and to the middle of the night looking at charts.
How do you determine a trade target?
Good question. That is strategy specific, and it is also higher time frame specific. So I might be looking at a pullback on the 5-minute chart, and I'm looking for a 2-to-1 target on that. So I'm looking to make twice as much. Now that might be the previous high of the trend, but I might look at the chart and say, well, actually, there's a strong 2-year support and resistance another 50 points away. So if I feel from that perspective that I could run that trade further, then I may well run it further. But most of my trade targets are determined by higher time frame support and resistance levels. So I'll have a base point of 2 to 1, but if I think I can run the trade, then I will.
How do you enter a trade?
Okay, so that's strategy specific. So for my trend-based day trading, I will already know where I'm going to enter potentially before the trade is set up. So I might be looking at a chart that is a market that's consolidating. So I'm saying, well, if this breaks to the upside, then I've already got a previous level of support and resistance, and I'm looking at a particular moving average. So quite often I will enter. So I will buy as price is coming back down. I found that there was no real relationship based on how I trade. I don't wait for a candle pattern. I don't wait for a specific candle to close. I'll pick a zone. A lot of traders will call it a buy zone or a sell zone, and then I will focus on that level, and if it reaches that level, I'll buy in.
How do you enter a trade?
Good question. It's strategy specific. So when I'm day trading, I'm trading with the trend. So I'm trend based. So for me, how the candle at the point of entry is or looks like is less important, because I'm going with a higher time frame trend, a trend on the lower time frame as well. So I'm really looking for levels, and I'm looking for a combination of moving averages and support and resistance levels. So I will, if price comes into that buy zone, if it's a long trade, or into the sell zone, if it's a short trade, then if it reaches that point, I will just enter the trade. I don't really wait for any specific candle confirmation.
And what's your philosophy? Are you buying high and selling high, or are you buying low, selling high?
Yeah, so I'm looking to the old saying of buying high, selling higher. That's what I'm doing. So yeah. But I do have some swing strategies that are what we call reversal based or against the trend. So those I am looking to buy low and sell higher. So again, it's strategy specific.
Do you scale into positions?
I do. It's funny enough, I was on a webinar last night, and that was the whole topic is how to scale into positions. So for me, if I see higher time frame confirmation of what I want to do on the lower time frame, then I'm more likely to scale into a position. So if we have a standard position, so all my criteria have been met, I may get in at 1 lot or 2 lots and get fully out of that trade at a specific level. So it's what we call, it's an all-in, all-out trade. But if I see the higher time frame and I look at it and go, well, hang on a minute, I think there's more room for this market to go further. I don't know it will. What I do is I don't simply add more in at the point of entry. So I don't go from 2 lots to 4. But what I'll do is I will look for other opportunities within that move to scale into the trade, but I always scale in with less risk. So if I'm risking 1% on my initial trade, if I scale into the same move a little bit later on, I might risk 0.5%. So I might have the same lot size but a smaller stop, because what I don't want to do is suddenly look at this trade and go, I've got 5% at risk on this trade just because I think it's going to go further based on my analysis. I want to make sure that if I scale in, I scale in with less risk.
How much is enough for you regarding your trades? So once you've got your entries, how do you manage your trades?
Oh, what a question. So for me, it has to be predetermined, because if you, and this is something I've learned over the years, is if you get into a trade and you think, especially if you've got lots of evidence on the higher time frames that you suggest or you think the market's going to go even further, if you don't have a predetermined target, essentially you're always going to be wrong. So the standard thing is if the trade is right if it wins, and the trade is wrong if it loses. Well, not always, because you can have a trade where you said, I'm going to get out at this level. Price reaches that level, you don't get out. Now, it may go further and you may make more money, but essentially, in a way, that trade was wrong, because what you've done is you've broken the rules that you set out to do at the start. Because there's the odd trade where you say, well, I'm going to get in here, and this is my predetermined target. Price hits that target, and then it falls away, and it's as if you had a crystal ball. You got it in at the perfect point and got out right at the high or right at the low. But invariably, most trades run on. So you have to deal with that. So I look at it and say, for me, it's about as a day trader, keeping the scoreboard ticking over. So I would rather have 3 or 4 2-to-1 trades that week. That means I may have left double on the table on each of them, but I followed my plan I'm happy.
Are you never a little bit?
Yeah, I have days. And it's funny because I'll say to my students, so I got out of that level, do you think I was happy with that? And they all say yes, and I go, no, I'm human. So there are days where, because there'll be trades where you and ah, you go, right, I'm going to get out of this previous resistance level. Well, I think that's going to go further. So there are days when you make the call to get out and it does run on, which is another reason why sitting in front of your screens, one of the key things I say to new traders is, as soon as you're out of that trade, go away from your screen. Make it a point to move away. Because if you sit there staring at what you could have had or what you could have taken, all you're doing is making it difficult for yourself.
When you're in a winning position, how long will you stick with it before you take your profits?
I will stay in it until it hits my target or it hits my stop. And that's born out of discipline. So I would previously go, oh, well, I've been in it 3 days. And I remember a trade where I'd been in it for about 2 months. It was a swing trade. It's gone sideways, sideways, sideways. And I just thought, I've had enough of this. Got out of it. And literally 10 minutes later, and it was probably a news announcement, but it broke up and it did another 400 points. Hit my target, smashed through it. So that was what I can remember that trade. It was on Euro, and I just thought, no, you stick to stop or target. Unless you've tested something, so unless you can go back over all of your trades and you can come, and I say this to students, if you can come to me and say, well, actually, Ali, if I stay in my trade longer than 5 days, then my win rate drops or my profitability drops, I'm going to say, fine, you've tested it, that works for you. But if you haven't got the data, then you set a limit, you set a stop, you stay in that trade until it hits either of those.
What would be your main signals to exit?
Previous support and resistance. So again, it's all predetermined. So previous support and resistance, or a combination of previous support and resistance, higher time frame moving averages. So anywhere where, in a way, another trader would be looking to get into the market at that point. So it might be that I'm trading with the trend on the 5-minute chart, and on the 4-hourly chart, there's a really strong level of resistance. So if I was independent from my trade, I'd be like, well, at that level, I would consider a short trade. Well, okay, if I consider a short trade there, surely that's got to be a reason for me to exit. I don't know the market's going to stop and turn at that point, but you have to draw a line in the sand as to where your levels are, or at least if it's not a level where you'll exit, it's a level where you'll move your stop it up to your entry, or you'll stop it up into a profit area.